leading the organization at that point, was they were looking for, new leadership, fresh blood. We've been carrying the torch for almost 20 years, and we're basically ready to retire. And so I agreed to take on the role and to try to revamp and give a rebirth to the organization. And the very first thing that we did was pull together a team of people and build a board. And we have some amazing women who are working on it. And I think that's, first and foremost, the success of the organization is that team of people. I mean, there's a group of about 10 of us who have been working together since 2013. And everyone is a volunteer. And so we all are people who have day jobs. And yet we will put extra time because we're so committed to representation and diversity and inclusion, and really felt that the timing was perfect. Somehow we all knew that what was coming, even though if you had asked us, we wouldn't have known. But there was this sense that things were changing. And so when we took over, we had 120 members. And today we have over 4,500 members.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's and I can talk about women in animation for hours, so I probably shouldn't do that. Or we can put, as the conversation evolves, I can tell you more details about it. But we absolutely found found a need and started to address it. And I think our challenges were our own, was organizing ourselves into a, we were essentially a startup. There was no structure. The only thing we had was tax exempt status, that all the paperwork had been done for the organization and a little seed money to get started. And, we've now built a pretty impressive organization that's supported by all the major studios. And, we have a staff now of 3.5 people and getting all the work done. So it's really been a very exciting ride.
I would definitely like to hear more, and maybe Marge, I'll come back to you for your story. What did you do differently, and how did you reach the top, and what kind of challenges and opportunities? But I would like to move on my question to Sherry. Sherry, I don't see you on my screen, but I hope you're here. Sherry, what inspired you to, take up the creative role? We discussed briefly about your passion, and how did you continue and pursue to be in the role, in this such huge competition? And what kind of opportunities and challenges you came across?
So, I more or less stumbled on this role. I was never one for the conventional line of an MBA or the CA. I wanted to do something more in arts. I love film, I love art. And while I was interning at an advertising agency, we needed to do some computer graphics. And I walked into this VFX studio and I was kind of hooked. So it's just been a journey from there. And when we started, it was almost an unknown field, and there was no institute, no formal training, no structure, no pipeline, nothing. I was actually delivering commercials for advertising, with a manual of how to use a computer in one hand and delivering the shot in the other. So it was a ride, but it's been fascinating because I've actually grown with this industry in the country, and to see where it's reached now has been amazing. In the initial part of my career, since it was mainly advertising, we had a lot of successful, powerful women in advertising, directors, editors, writers. So we were surrounded with these role models. But as my journey moved to visual effects in the feature film industry, it became a little bit more difficult for me, because often I found myself as the only representative of the VFX department in a room full of male colleagues. So there was that hesitancy. Should I speak? Maybe I won't speak because I'm the only woman here. And then what are they talking about? I know this can be done better. I know it can be done more efficiently. So it's that initial leap. You've got to take it. You've got to be bold. You're the subject matter expert here. And it took a couple of turns, and then I realized that there was respect because everybody wants the best for the job. And I think I just put myself out there, and it became easier going forward. So the struggle is initial. You have to have the confidence. You need to be committed. You need to have the passion for this field. It's hard. It's tough. You have to learn everything. Every day you're learning something new. But I think it's just the passion that drives you.
Is that what kept you going? Is that your passion that kept you going? And do you think you had support from your friends at work and family? That's how you've been able to sustain?
Yes, I've been fortunate in that. I've had a very supportive family on this. They knew nothing about visual effects and computer graphics when I joined, but they were supportive. And the environment, like I told you, I was in, had a lot of these independent women. And we had a guide, mentor, director of my first company who was also very supportive of this field. And in fact, I had a lot of women colleagues, all of us, trying to do this thing without any formal education. So it was fun as a learning curve. And I think as we moved along, we've realized that this industry itself is there's something new, there's something challenging every day. So if you're in it, you're just hooked and you're in it.
Lovely, lovely. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Sherry. From this, actually, from your conversation, what comes to my mind is a question for Payal. So Payal, this is an industry which probably calls for long hours, right? And probably it happens in advertising and other industries as well. But maybe this is more demanding, right? So as a woman, how did you break this traditional mindset? And we all multitask. So how did you break this traditional mindset and of being a homemaker and being a professional, and while being a professional, reaching really the top, right? Like, how did you manage that?
Definitely, Kranti. I think some people, still think that a good mother is the one who sort of gives up work, stays home, takes care of the children. But I personally feel that a child's development is influenced by the emotional health of the family. So how the family feels about the mother's working and the quality of the child care given. So a mother who successfully manages both outside job and parenthood, provides to be a role model for her child. That's what I personally think. And I think being a mother, it shouldn't be a choice. It shouldn't be that you either choose your career or childcare. So, definitely it is a very difficult task and needs a lot of planning on the mother's part so that, you could balance both the worlds. So I think setting priorities is extremely important. And in most families with working mothers, I think each family member has a role to play in the household. So, I feel that the children sort of start take care of themselves. They become a little bit more independent. And, these are the positive outcomes mostly when there's a working mother and she feels more valued and supported by family, friends, co-workers. So I think it's a group working together to have, more women being successful. So yes, I was lucky. I had a lot of support from my co-workers. I have had good support from my bosses and definitely a very supportive family.
What were some of the challenges you faced, Payal, when you were, growing the ladder and when you moving to the top? That's a journey, right? So what were your challenges and how did you overcome them?
So first thing was definitely whether I could deliver a shot. Whether I could probably stay back, or it could be whether it was more of proving myself at different stages. So yes, when I started as an artist, I had my own set of challenges, whether I could complete something within the given time, stipulated time. So once that came up is when I wanted to take up some responsibilities, probably lead a group of people or lead some amount of team members. And yes, you do have male members in your department, in your team, and getting accepted is something that I definitely found was challenging. But then yes, once I proved myself, when it was more like, we all are together as a team. Once that establishment was there, then I think there was no stopping. Then that's when, I think more and more responsibilities I continue to take. And as I said, I had a lot of support, which, me forward.
Lovely. Thanks for sharing, Payal. Puja, you've been quiet. Next is you. Puja, you, I think, spent your pretty much your education time in the US, right? So you probably have seen the world there and here, or most of our panel members have. But the pointed question to you, Puja, is for our fraternity and our academies and students who are, coming out of the institute. What would you tell them that, what they don't teach in the institute and what is that they need to acquire to join a company like a DNEG?
So first of all, thank you for inviting me. I think nowadays I will first talk from the Indian perspective. I think in India, the world is opening up thanks to the millennial age people that we have. They keep up themselves with what's happening, what is the technology, what is the skills. But what's the key to go ahead and establish yourself in an industry is to know that it is a collaborative effort. It's not that you're a one-man army who's going to achieve everything. It's knowing how to work in group. That is one thing that I don't think so a lot of institutes or anyone teaches. So it's something that we have to have our mindset, be ready to collaborate, and also the passion that is within us, the passion for art, the passion for doing the best. It's a very fast space industry. So knowing that what you're dreaming can come true and having that ability and a determination to achieve it plays more important. Especially being confident. I think being confident, not being hesitant in asking questions, because when I joined the industry, I used to sometimes think, oh, can I ask this? What will people think of me? That fear generally gives us a setback. And that is something, again, is not taught. It's something comes with only experience being, it's a quality that we all have to develop. So I think that's very important. Of course, when you're studying abroad, it's a very, I think there is a degree given to it. So you learn a lot of aspects of art, how to draw, and then get into the CG aspects of it. Whereas in India, the traditional art is sometimes forgotten, and that is very important. Knowing the aesthetics of how to draw, what's the colors, what could be achieved by seeing a perspective. All of those basics are also very important. So anybody who is going to go and get an animation or a VFX degree, please also try and get artistic, basic art courses so that it helps you. So you don't feel that you are weak anywhere. So you have a strong base.
Great. Thanks, Puja. Actually, what's stemming from your conversation, and this anybody could pick up from the panel, we've noticed that we have women joining these education courses. They are joining AVGC education, right? And they somehow drop out after the pass. They do pass the courses, but they do not join the industry, the creative side of the industry for some reason. Right, and even if they join, so there are two questions. One, they don't join, and even if they do, they stay on for some time, and due to some pressures, they kind of drop off. So what would be your advice for these two set of women, who are learning the education and coming in and not probably pursuing their careers in the creative field? Anybody can probably take this question.
Kranti, I think in the creative field, the women, when they want to put their foot in, they are very scared. I think they don't have role models, which actually, if you see, you have a lot of role models. Like it's people have this fear that it's a male dominating industry, but it's technically not. And that is the perspective that we need to change. And to change that, you will have to we will have to go and approach them. We'll have to go speak to them that, there is a career for you. If not a creative, there is a technical space for you, or there's an HR role for you, or there is a managerial role for you, or there is a production role for you. I think, it's not been explained well. And I think people just think VFX means long hours, but any industry means long hours. Even an IT job could be long hours, or even a doctor or anybody. But I think it's just that myth that we need to break. I think if we can balance, if any woman can balance and juggle so many roles, I'm sure she knows how to balance her work life and her home. So, and having a very supportive family, as all the other panelists have said, is very important. So I think it's explaining to the world your dream and able to achieve it and not give up is the key that I.
So I'd like to add to
absolutely.
This. I think it's a two-part problem. I'm speaking more about the women who join the industry and then fall off or decide not to continue. One is, we're all aware about this erratic work schedule that we have within this industry. We also know that it's long hours, and a director could have a meeting late at night, and then there's the pressure. She's got to go home, and we have a family waiting for us, and this constant pressure of not being able to be there for all the important things because maybe they happen late. It just plays on you. Then you have the children, etc. So as a mindset, our industry needs to change. I think what has happened because of this situation that the world is currently facing is suddenly we are seeing a work from home model and flexible hours working so well, and people have accepted it. So I think now women will be more eager to participate and come to the front because they're going to be able to avail of these flexible hours. So I also know that we are in such a superb age in the VFX industry in India. We've got some great films coming out, have come out. The budgets have become bigger. We've got all these OTT platforms demanding quality VFX. So everybody is out there trying to do better and make greater films. So it's like the golden age of VFX. Now we need the talent. We need to nurture the talent we have, and we need to grow it. Where is this talent going to come from? It's our women. They're so talented. So I think there is a mindset shift, and we know we have to adapt to make it comfortable for women to work. They should not need to choose home or career. They should be able to have both because it will then bring out the best in them. The second part, again, is a personal choice. It's a mindset. Like I mentioned, this confidence to be able to be bold, speak up. You also need to have strong women figures as stakeholders in your company so that they can encourage women to speak up, speak your mind, give them the confidence, motivate them and encourage them. I think it's a combination of these aspects that would help us bring the women in and keep them there.
Yeah, I totally, if I may, I totally agree with what's being said. I really think, it's a twofold or two-sided issue, and one is the internal issue for women themselves to have the confidence, to have belief in themselves, to see somebody who has done it, like to know that this is an option. And then it's all about expectations. What do people expect of women? And what do women expect of themselves? And I think that's what we need to change. I think there has been a past expectation that, the primary role of a woman is to be a mom and to, keep a family and manage a family. And women have therefore expected that as being their primary job. And, what we want to do is open it up so that women realize they have choices. And that there isn't just one thing that they can do. They can do that. They can work outside of the home. They can do both. They can, and really your life is full of choices. And so to be able to embrace that and be courageous to make your own choices and to design your life the way that you want it to be. And then it becomes like a production. It becomes, an issue of management and getting the resources, human and otherwise, that you need to do what you want to do. And I think we all work in production in some form or another, and that there's been some really hard challenges that have come up where you may have thought your show is doomed or your project is doomed, like all these forces are working against you, and yet you figure out a way. You figure out a way to, solve that problem, get those resources that you need, and you successfully deliver your show. I mean, it's a metaphor, but it's one I live by. It's how, I was a single mom through the early years of my life in production. I was a PA and a production coordinator, and down in the trenches, putting in the hours, and I had 2 small children that I was raising on my own, and it was really it was just a matter of getting the resources that I needed, and building the relationships that I needed to build, and having 2 amazing human beings who were very resilient, very independent, and who I had open communication with, so that we were able to, when things got hard for them, they would let me know. And it was all just an issue of managing the situation that I was in. So I completely agree with what everyone is saying, and I think that is the issue of retention, of keeping women in the workplace, is creating this environment where, women have those choices, like they're actually, and they have the resources that they need, and that people understand what those choices and resources are. And women themselves have to understand what they are. So, a challenge, but it's actually pretty fun to figure it out. It's like a puzzle.
Absolutely. I think everybody in this room today is a multitasker, as I can see, and definitely great thoughts. Marge, what advice would you provide to our Gen X colleagues to foster an environment, conducive environment for women to flourish in creative roles?
Well, I think it's it's a great question, but it's a huge question. So I'm trying to figure out where to start. There's if I'm addressing management, people who are creating work environments, first and foremost, it's what I would say to anybody, is sit down and listen to people, and to recognize that people have, that they're individuals. So like I'm hesitant to go, well, you have to think about this because all women do that and all women need this. And, there's a lot of similarities that we share, but I really do think if I had a team and I was like, how am I going to make this team feel like everybody who's a member of the team belongs on the team and has a place here and can be successful? I have to know who my team is. I have to understand what their issues are. What are they struggling with? And I think the same is true for women. Like, so especially if I was a male manager or leader of a company, I would sit down with the women of my company and go, what are the challenges you're facing? What can we do to make your job easier? And start from that and build from there. I mean, flexible hours is even for, I think it's necessary, as Sherry said earlier, with the situation that we're living in now with the pandemic, it's really opened everybody's eyes to, how flexible can you be with people's work hours? And it turns out you can be very flexible, and that people are still getting their work done and they're still hitting their deadlines. And like, we don't have to have that sort of rigid. And I also challenge the idea that, we need to have those long hours. I really believe that long hours just comes from bad management. Someone did not set up the production in the right way in the first place, and or they or the forces working on, because it's often the client's fault, but the people working on the production are not managing it according to the original plan. And so I also think it's really important for people to realize that, if you do create a work environment that is where a woman can be successful, funny, it turns out that everyone can be successful in that environment. And if you create a more humane, balanced, work-life balance work environment, it's amazing how much more successful the men are as well. It's actually good for everybody. And to the point brought up earlier, there is a systemic change that needs to happen.
Yeah, quite right. Marge, quite right. Actually, I would like to hear from Payal based on what Marge was saying. So, Payal, I read in your bio, and I know as a matter of fact, you are heading the balance team of Technicolor, right? So, what is your organization what was your organization's vision with respect to adding women into the creative roles?
So I think there was a very conscious effort that Technicolor has taken forward. So as an organization, there was a lot of effort put in. We reached out to a lot of art colleges, a lot of institutes where we encouraged more women. We went, I personally went, I did a lot of talks about what sort of roles are available, what kind of profession is VFX, and how exciting it can be. And we also at Technicolor made sure that we had only women batches that we went ahead and we encouraged them to kind of enroll, and we had more women, more fresher women joining the organization. So I think that is the starting point that we initiated. And you give it a couple of years, I'm sure these women are going to pick up the lead roles. They are going to be stepping up. So as an organization, yes, there was a very conscious effort made to have that balance getting created in every department.
Interesting. So did you actually see the numbers going up when the organization was giving a conscious effort to the whole activity?
Absolutely. I don't have the exact numbers, but I can say that within 2 years, I think we were able to have about 300, 350 women getting added overall. So that was a big number that I would say, which, we've managed to get, and we managed to bring in some really good artists. And honestly speaking, it's just not because they are women that we brought them. We actually saw the skill set. I would say that it's like they proved themselves to be in the organization. It's not that there's a quota system and we are bringing in more women and we have so many women to bring in the organization. No, it was completely on basis of their skill set and artist skills that we brought them in.
So my next question is for anybody in the panel, right? So when we engage with women in the colleges and we invite them to apply in the organization, do you ever think that the profiles are shortlisted based on their gender, or do you think the organizations in India have opened up the mindset to have everybody and anybody apply, or do you think there is still some restrictions in our country?
I think.
So, Kranti.
Oh, okay. You go.
Okay, Sherry, go ahead.
I don't think there are any such restrictions. In fact, as the industry is looking for this talent, we've noticed that there are more and more women applying, even as interns. And what is so great about an internship is you're able to explore a production firsthand. You're brought into the fold. You're doing a deep dive into it, and you're able to move around. There are so many aspects of VFX. You're able to move around within the various departments and see something that works for you, or it might not. So also to answer that question about women falling away and not taking this up at a career, at an internship level, they see the commitment they'll need to make. And if they have the passion and the drive, they can continue and also be able to select what VFX stream they would like to specialize in. So I think this whole concerted effort of our industry moving towards colleges and recruiting people has just brought in a lot more women, because there is a lot more awareness now of this. That's what I believe.
And Puja, sorry, you were sharing your thoughts as well.
So the thing is also, I think every now and then when we pick talent, right? We always see the skill sets. So I think it's not that it's a gender biased job opportunity. It's more skill based. And of course, nowadays, women themselves have got intrigued. I think when they see LinkedIn profiles, they see there are more women joining this industry. I think when I started in early 2000, that time I think I was probably the only women in a room full of men. But today I see at least every bay has at least one woman sitting. So I think it's because the exposure. I think today's technology, the outreach that can be done is just unbelievable. And also, I think the women now I have realized that this is not a job that they cannot tackle. It's not that they won't be heard. I think if they have that strength that they will stand up and say, okay, I want to achieve it this way or that way. And your managers or your bosses listening to you and having the belief that you are capable of doing a change in the organization. I think that talks a very long way. I've always had male bosses, but the reason I was able to grow is one, they always were very helpful. They always had belief that that I would be able to reach somewhere, and they were guiding me. So I think even we would have to play those same roles to the women entering this industry. If we do that, I'm sure you will see more women, and they are always hardworking. I mean, you will always see a woman artist delivering the work and leaving on time.
I'd like to just add that, people often feel welcome when they're invited in. So I think I love that you all are talking about going to the schools and inviting them to apply, because the doors have to be opened first, and then and as soon as you do, and people believe that the doors are really open, they'll come flooding in. It's amazing.
So true. Much we know that, okay, we'll do the right job of inviting them, and we'll engage with them and we'll have them apply. But what about the leadership roles? That's like probably in single digits today, right? Maybe even 1 to 2% in the leadership roles that we have in the creative, not the production side, but in the creative side, you don't see women. What is your what would you advise? What would you say about that?
Well, I think first I would say, give them time. I mean, if you're only now just, the people are coming in at the entry level, it's going to take a few years, and depending on the field, for example, the runway for features is much longer than the runway for television. So in features, it could take you years to get into a leadership position. And television, which has a much faster turnover, you could probably move in, a couple of years as opposed to 10 years. So I think that's the first thing. And then, one of the things that we do a lot in Women in Animation is, we consider part of our talent development work is to do, workshops. We do many, many panels where, like this, where women who are experienced and have, established themselves in the industry just talk about what they've done and their work. And in just that fact of seeing professional women in these roles talking about their work, as opposed to, and we learned this very early on, talking about what is it like to be a woman in this role is not as interesting as tell us about the role. Like, what do you do as an art director? What do you do as a director? And to really have women seen as art directors, not women art directors, it's a really important shift for people. So there's that, and then just a continuous encouragement. And I mean, there's I think of it as a joke because it's ridiculous, but the whole thing of when there's a job available and there's a list, job description and a list of requirements, a woman will look at it and go, well, I only have 99% of the requirements, so I can't apply for the job. A man will look at it and go, I got 60% of the qualities, the requirements. I'm going to go ahead and apply for this job. And it's somehow breaking that idea of perfectionism or, having to have it all before you even raise your hand, and to sort of be bold, even if it's in a really, scary way of, taking some chances and putting yourself out and, like nominating yourself. And a lot of times you have to nominate yourself, like, because it may not occur to the people around you that you are the best qualified person or an interesting candidate for a promotion, so that would be a couple of things.
So Puja, which one of these did you manage to do when you were coming up the ladder? Is this all of them, some of them? Maybe you should share.
I think one of the most important one is to let your work speak for yourself, but also I think you need to go up and not hesitate in taking up any opportunity. I think you need to go forward and speak to your bosses. You need to show them you're ready, because they always think there is always a thought that women need a little while to settle in, to grab some opportunities. They always feel, oh, she might have a family, she might have, what will her timings be? I think till we don't go communicate and say that I'm ready, prepared, try me out, it's very difficult for you to grab on a position and prove it to the others that you're very much capable. At the same time, I think there were times when I was a little frightened to be the only woman sitting in a room full of people. So, building my own self-confidence, telling myself that it's okay if I'm not perfect. And, if I fumble, I will learn. So that also helped me. I think so. It's the fear, it's the going out for your own opportunity. I think the biggest way, let's look at it when Wonder Woman released. It was an era where we were introduced to a women superhero, but at the same time, the behind the scenes, let it be the director or let it be, there were tons of VFX artists who were women. And that was a very nice platform to go out and show the change in our industry, that even women can be amazing directors, plus housemakers. There were talented supervisors, artists who played the same role. So I think it helped, and it really helped to change the thought of this industry.
I'm dumbstruck. Okay, but I would still go ahead and ask Sherry, if we had to pick two things, or we had to tell two things that a woman should know when they are either coming up the curve or when they're applying, what would that be?
I think you need to have that confidence that you know your stuff. I think everybody on this panel has said that, and I think we can't stress that enough. You've got to be confident, you know your stuff, put yourself forward. And I also think you need to believe in yourself, that self-worth. Know that you are your biggest critic, your biggest judge. Don't try and be what you think other people want you to be. Be yourself, be authentic, be honest. These are also things that I've kind of learned and adopted as I've gone forward, and I strongly recommend them because they're simple but integral, I think, to growth.
Marge, are you adding something?
No, I was just agreeing.
Okay. Marge, we have some very interesting women in this panel, very senior women in this leadership roles. If we were to run women in animation or AVGC, let's say, here in India, what are those three things you would want us to focus on? You've been running this for years, so what would you want us to focus on?
Well, a really great place to start. It just seems to keep coming up. Is to really get the numbers and to figure out what is the state of women in the industry. So like how many people are in schools, how many people are, and you make that transfer into the workplace. Are there particular areas where women aggregate? I mean, my guess, and it's not a very risky one, is that it's production management, since that's true all over the world. But what are the what are the creative areas or the creative roles that women are in, and where are they not? And then what if you one of the things that we've been looking at is trying to figure out, and I think we know, but or ask the question of what is the key role that will have the biggest impact on the hiring or bringing women into the industry. So I work in television, and that's pretty much the director or the showrunner. And so then we started thinking, well, how do we, what's the path, the career path, which is also a really important thing for everybody to understand. Is people in schools do not understand what the career path is. Like, if you want to be a director, what's the first job you have to get? And how do you work your way up to becoming a director? Or if you want to be an art director, or if you want to be a TD or something like that. And so anyway, we've been trying to be strategic about, if we want to increase the number of women, who are the people who decide who to hire in roles, if it's the showrunner as in television, or the director as in features, or producers in other areas, then how do we get more women in those roles? And therefore, the entry level, what's the path? So what's the entry level that we have to start, trying to really encourage women to join? And it does seem that story is the path that leads you to being a leader, like the leader or the hiring manager, the hiring head, the final say of who gets hired. In most of it, art directors as well, if people are in the art department. And from what we've seen, women tend to go more towards the art department than, women coming out of schools tend to go more towards the art department. So I think that's one thing. The other really basic thing is, a whole advocacy campaign where you start influencing, you figure out who are the big influential people in the industry, and how do you get them to acknowledge and recognize that this is an important issue, and that it's important to them, and that, and the real key for everybody is that women are the most underutilized talent resource. Like, what we explained to people and said over and over and over again is, like, you're missing out on amazing talent because of the unconscious bias against women. So, open up the port, get, more diverse talent in there, because it'll be better for you, because you'll have, stronger talent to work with.
Absolutely.
So those are two main things, I think, is getting the numbers, and then just starting the campaign of, like, doing panels like this, and any opportunities, figure out who are the studios, or the influencers. And a single person can't do this. And so, like I said at the very beginning, the single biggest step women in animation took was we got this core group, and it was totally luck. We all just happened to come together, and then it was a lot of mutual support and leadership. And then we started having success, and then people started going, oh, I want to be part of this. And but it's that core group of leadership that will make or break it. And we've seen it in, we have chapters in several large animation hubs, and like the chapters that are being really successful are the ones that have strong leadership.
Marsh, thank you for sharing that. I think we will have some time for taking questions, but I just quickly wanted to sum up So I've heard you ladies, and you all have said, let the work speak, be vocal, be bold, take chances, put yourself out there. I think that was probably a very interesting piece. And we don't have to be perfectionists, right? We don't have to reach the 98, 99% to get here. We can start at 60% is what Marge kind of shared with us. So these are very, very interesting thoughts. I don't want to go away without asking this one last question, right? I don't know the percentage of women here in leadership in India, but let's just assume that it's 15%. What messaging would you want to give to the 85% of the counterpart who probably is hearing us before you take questions? Anyone can take this. Sherry, Payal, Marge, Puja. What would you want to give?
My one message will be to any professional would be to prioritize and organize yourself. So I think these are the two very important things. And if you know what your priorities are and you set them right, and then you organize yourselves around that, I think there's not going to be no stopping for you.
And
I think if you have a vision, go grab it, because there is no second chance. So just go grab it. Take a leap of faith. Be organized. Have the support, and let your skills talk. I think that takes the people way ahead.
Marge, do you have anything? Sherry, do you want to add something?
I think in support of, or in addition to what's been said, because I totally agree with all of those, and I think those are the key things, is realize that everyone is terrified, and to be an artist and to be a creative person and to be in the creative field is a terrifying thing. You are exposing yourself and your vision and your skills to people. You just lay them out there for people to criticize. And there's, I don't know about you, but to me, there's nothing more terrifying than that. And, but it's worth it. It's totally worth opening yourself up and taking those chances, but acknowledge or realize that everyone, even, the biggest, baddest man out there doing all the things that he wants to do, if you get him in private and you really can get him to open up, you'll find out that he's as terrified as anybody. So the fact that you're scared or you're feeling scared about doing something like this is actually kind of irrelevant. Like, you have to think of it as being irrelevant. You have to move forward in spite of, how you're feeling about doing it.
Thanks, Marge. Sherry, some last words?
So, since everybody has said all the correct things, I'm talking about those 15%, okay, of the women at the top. Now, they have a role to play in this as well. They need to help this 85% to come up. They need to be the stakeholders, ones responsible to help these women make that goal, push that curve, raise the bar, that kind of thing. There is a responsibility with the 15%. So I'm talking for them.
So that 15%, I have few of them in the room today, luckily.
So there is a responsibility on them as well.
Thank you so much. I am now going to get to the questions. So I will start getting them in the chat and my mobile phone. It can take a breather for a second. Okay, the first question, what's the best way to enter the VFX industry for women? What kind of courses or which department?
Should I take that?
Anybody. Maybe we can have two views.
Excellent. Okay. So I think you have the opportunity now to go to some of these schools. The schools will never teach you enough. And once you get a basic foundation, just learning the tools as it were, to intern at a studio and to experience firsthand what a production is like live on the ground would be your second step And only then will you be able to understand what aspect of VFX really interests you and then pursue that.
Puja, you had something to add?
So I think the way of entering would be, of course, courses. A lot of studios like DNEG, MPC have the starting either for 3D, it would be match move or body tracking. And for the 2D side of things, it would be roto or prep. And they do a lot of these internships, or they do a lot of academies to get freshers into the industry. So I think if they try and approach these businesses, keep out on their on their job opportunities for these sort of internships, I think it helps them to get their first step into the industry. And it also helps them to understand what this industry is, what are the hours like, and what they can further pursue more. Because when you're inside a studio, you get a better understanding of the day-to-day work. And also you get to understand what different fields or what have to have for you in it. What is the best suitable one for you? Is it always? So I think it's just the first stepping stone would be one of these 4 departments, and then you can grow yourself, because these are the 4 pillars of the of this VFX industry, and then you have your other departments. So I think, yeah.
And I think we can do a lot of outreach with colleges and share this information for them to give that perspective, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, the next question. There are so many well-known female directors, but very few female VFX supervisors. What do you have to say about that? Anyone?
I think we've just said it, right? We've explained why, and we are going to fix it, and you're going to see a sea change. Our industry is on an up and up and up, and I think everybody is loving the challenge at the moment. It's such a great place to be in India right now. Yeah, you'll soon see a lot of visual effects supervisor women.
So I think a lot of companies, DG supervisors or VFX supervisors, but they are inside the studio. So till you don't put your foot in, till you don't read up on LinkedIn or something, it's very difficult to see it. It's like a director's name pops up in a, when a ad is put up for an upcoming movie, but never a VFX supervisor is mentioned. So that is why we don't have that much of knowledge, but they are there. Surely it's happening in US and Canada and Montreal and London, but even in India it's picking up. So I would just say it's just a little bit of time, and when you start browsing through LinkedIn, role models.
I think there's also a kind of invisibility about women in these roles, to support what you're saying. Many years ago, when I was first getting involved with women in animation, I wanted to put together a women directors panel. And, so I reached out to a lot of friends, who were in studios, and I was like, who do you know who's a woman director? And I had a list of like maybe 3 names. And so then they sent me, each had maybe 3 names, 2 of which were already on my list. And so by asking people, I got maybe 5 or 6 names. And then I thought, well, I don't know, I'm going to try to figure out another way of finding who these women are. And so I went into IMDb and started going through the credits for various, and I was looking in television for various TV shows. And I ended up with a list of about 50 women with director titles. Now, some of them were animation directors as opposed to show directors, but still I was so shocked. And everyone I had gone to, I went back to them and said, I found 50 women with this credit going through IMDb. And it just, to me, proves that, to your point, there are so many women out there actually doing the work, but for some reason, we're just not visible. And we're not made visible. one of the other things that Women in Animation is doing, and we're about to launch, is we built a database. I mean, it's very simplistic, but it's searchable database of talent. And we have over 4,000 women in this database, and that's basically pretty much my reach, you know, like I and a couple of other people's reach. Like once we really open this up, and it will be open for people, for women to submit themselves to it. I mean, there will be tens of hundreds of thousands, or could be potentially. There's just something about people being unaware of the fact, or again, us just being invisible, and we don't really have a sense of how many women are actually working in the industry.
Wow.
Which I think is interesting
Yeah,
and inspiring.
The visibility of these roles, I think that's going to be very, very key. And I think that's something that we will pick up once we start Women in Animation for AVGC here in India. I just have 1 minute and probably one last question we can take. What's the challenges on shoot for girls, and how do we gear up for it? Anyone?
I can take that. There are challenges. One of it, and these challenges now are less because you've got an industry now which is shooting, which has a lot of women in it. In the earlier days, again, it used to be quite a male domain. There used to be a little bit of discomfort on the set because you would be the only woman there. But today the challenges seem less, and since you are, again, like I said, a subject matter expert, and you have the respect of the industry, I feel that people are willing to listen. So your challenges are not at all insurmountable. They may be just, getting off and getting to know your crew and cast. And once you're past that, I think it's generally more comfortable in our industry.
I think with that, our panel comes to an end, and this was a great session. It was great insights from each one of you. Marge, Puja, Sherry, Payal, thank you so much for being here. And I hope this recording is going to be available, and I'll be in touch for creating women in animation with the leaders like you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Kranti, for moderating so well. And it was indeed exciting to hear the leading ladies, how they have been moving forward in their respective fields. It's really inspiring to hear from you.